In 1961, a 50-year-old drifter sat in a Florida prison cell for a crime he said he didn't commit. He had an 8th grade education, no money, no lawyer. Everyone in the system had already told him no. So he took a pencil, a few sheets of prison stationery, and did something almost no one in American history has ever pulled off. He challenged the most powerful court in the country by himself. And he won. Not just for himself, for you. This is the story of how one broke, forgotten man in a cell gave every single American a right you probably didn't know you had to fight for. His name was Clarence Earl Gideon. He wasn't a hero. He'd spent much of his life drifting in and out of prison for small, non-violent crimes. He was the kind of man society had mostly written off. On a June morning in 1961, someone broke into the Bay Harbor pool room in Panama City, Florida, smashed a cigarette machine, took some coins, some beer, and wine. Later, police found Gideon nearby with change in his pockets and a bottle of wine. That, plus one witness who claimed he saw him there, was enough. Gideon was arrested and charged with breaking and entering, a felony. When Gideon walked into that courtroom, he stood alone. He couldn't afford a lawyer, so he asked the judge to appoint him one. And the judge said no. Under Florida law at the time, you only got a free lawyer if you were charged with a crime that could carry the death penalty. Gideon wasn't, so the court told him he was on his own. Gideon said one thing back that turned out to be prophetic. The United States Supreme Court says I am entitled to be represented by counsel. He was wrong, at the time, but not for long. Gideon had to defend himself, and he tried. He made an opening statement. He cross-examined witnesses. He argued he was innocent. He did about as well as any untrained person could. But he wasn't a lawyer. He didn't know the rules. He didn't know how to dismantle the case against him. The jury found him guilty. He was sentenced to 5 years. Most people would have served the time and moved on. Gideon didn't. In prison, he did something that would change the country. He went to the prison library and he started studying law. Day after day, he read. And the more he read, the more convinced he became that what happened to him wasn't just unfair, it was unconstitutional. The Sixth Amendment said you had the right to the assistance of counsel. He believed that had to mean everyone, even a poor man, even him. So, in pencil, on lined prison paper, Clarence Gideon handwrote a petition to the Supreme Court of the United States. A man with an 8th grade education, writing by hand from a cell, asking the 9 most powerful judges in America to hear his case. The odds of the Supreme Court taking any single petition are almost laughably small. They receive thousands. They pick a handful. They picked his. The court saw something in Gideon's simple, direct plea. Just a fundamental question of fairness. How can a poor man get a fair trial with no lawyer when the government he's up against has trained prosecutors? They took the case so seriously that they appointed Gideon one of the best lawyers in the entire country, a man named Abe Fortas, who would himself later become a Supreme Court justice. On March 18, 1963, the decision came down. It was unanimous, 9-0, in favor of Gideon. The court ruled that the right to a lawyer is not a luxury, it's a necessity. That any person too poor to hire an attorney cannot get a fair trial unless the government provides one. And this now applied to every state in the country. Justice Hugo Black wrote the opinion. And here's a detail that makes it even better. 20 years earlier, Black had argued this exact position in another case, and lost. Now, 2 decades later, he got to write it into law for the entire nation. But the story isn't over. Winning at the Supreme Court didn't set Gideon free. It got him a new trial, a do-over, this time with a lawyer. So Gideon went back to the same courthouse where he'd been convicted, same charges. But now he had an attorney named W. Fred Turner beside him. And watch what a lawyer actually does. Turner went after the prosecution's star witness. He picked the testimony apart and suggested the witness himself was likely involved in the burglary. Same evidence, same courtroom, but this time with someone who knew how to fight. The jury deliberated for about an hour. and they found Clarence Gideon not guilty. The man who couldn't get a lawyer, who taught himself law in a cell, who beat the Supreme Court with a pencil, walked out free. And because of him, about 2,000 other people in Florida prisons who'd been convicted without lawyers were eventually freed too. So what does Clarence Gideon's pencil mean for you? 3 things. 1. If you're ever charged with a serious crime and you can't afford a lawyer, the state must provide you one. That's not a favor. That's your right. And it exists because of a drifter in a Florida cell. 2. A lawyer is not admitting guilt. Gideon was innocent, and it took a trained attorney to prove it. The same evidence that convicted him got him acquitted. The only thing that changed was having someone who knew how to fight. 3. This right connects to every other one. The right to remain silent, the right to refuse a search. They all lean on this. The right to have someone in your corner who knows the system. Use it. Clarence Gideon died years later, buried at first in an unmarked grave. His headstone was added later, with a line from a letter he once wrote. Each era finds an improvement in law for the benefit of mankind. He was his era's improvement, and you're living in it. If you didn't know a single handwritten letter gave you the right to a lawyer, share this with someone who should. This is education, not legal advice. And there's a new story every week, because the more you know what they can't do, the harder you are to push around.